Hey, what's going on, everybody? How we doing? As always, my name is Emir and welcome to my diary. In this moment right here, I'm overwhelmed with joy. I started this podcast last week with the expectations of 5, maybe 10 people listening to it. And the amount of support that I've gotten from you guys, from my friends, from my family, from people that I don't even know, to people that I barely even know. It's truly amazing. It's mind-blowing. I can't even wrap my mind around it, and all I can say is thank you. I set out on this mission to share my experience in order to connect with the world and maybe help somebody. And to see that goal, that vision come to fruition in less than an hour of me releasing the podcast. It was insane. It filled me with adrenaline. I was literally jittering. I was jittering. Because I'm getting these messages on Instagram saying, hey, listen, I completely feel how you feel. I felt that way before. I'm currently struggling with this. I even got people sending me their own poetry and telling me about their past, other things that they've struggled with. And I can't believe it. I really can't. I did not expect this kind of response. But I just want to say thank you to every single person that reached out to me, every single person that showed some support, reshared the podcast, sent screenshots on Instagram, everything. You told a friend to listen to it. Thank you so much. You see, all this unexpected support just added so much fuel to my machine. I swear to God, I feel like you guys just gave me steroids and all I want to do is write poetry and make podcasts right now. I can't stop my mind from thinking about it. And I already knew that this goal that I set was virtuous. It was honorable. It was worthy of my pursuit. But after hearing back from you guys, I know it. You know what I mean? I know it. I know it. I know it. I know it. I can't even second guess myself. So I'm going to keep the ball rolling here. And this episode right here is all about what it means to be a man. Because right now, I don't know. I know what society expects of me as a man. But following that expectation to me just feels wrong. It's not me. It really is just not me, and that's plain and simple. And before any of you ladies who are listening check out right now and just back out of this, because what do you care about what it means to be a man? This one right here is all about challenging those roles that are set upon you. And not only that, I understand that you have special men in your life. You have your father, you have your brother, you have your boyfriend, your husband, whatever it may be. This right here is an insight into the mind of a man. So this just might help you really understand what they are thinking. Because we do stupid shit, and we do it a lot. So if you hear me out right now, you may start to understand why we're doing that stupid shit. And for my guys out there, to not listen to me right now, to not hear my voice, to not hear what I'm about to share with you, would be a loss. And I honestly mean that. Because I don't know how many of your boys are so willing to speak freely to you like this. But I'm assuming for most of you, it's very minimal. We're in the same boat here. As men, we have the same expectations put on us. But I decided to not go with the status quo and actually just give it some thought. And when I did that, this poem just came out of me. So without further ado, this one is called To Be a Man. Pound your chest like a primate. For the courage you lack, you must compensate. Suppress insecurities with masculinity. For your biggest fear is vulnerability. Prioritize your ego. Don't step aside. Self-destruct. Never hurt your pride. To be a man, I'd much rather be just who I am. You guys want to know something that cracks me up? It's watching grown-ass men try too hard to be men. I swear I see it every day. But when I see this, it puts me in a weird spot. I don't know whether to burst out laughing or to lend my shoulder for them to cry on. And trust me, half of me wants to sit back and enjoy that nice stomach-cramping laugh. But the better half of me knows that being a man isn't easy. It's hard to live up to the expectations. And growing up, we're taught that in order to survive in this world, in order to be successful, to be a real man, you gotta drink the Kool-Aid. I remember that sweet, sweet Kool-Aid myself. I was dedicated to chugging that shit down on a daily basis. I ate it up. I strived to be your stereotypical man because that's what I thought was right. You know, a tough guy who bottles up all emotions, cares for no one, has no fear, gets women, and is a success. Now you may be wondering to yourself, shit, if you're not drinking the Kool-Aid, then what are you drinking? Just water. I find its lack of sweetness and difficulty putting down to be much more fitting. Because being a man is not sweet. It's an everyday struggle to have the courage to be empathetic, vulnerable, disciplined, well thought out, and most importantly, yourself. Compared to the contrary, where all you gotta do is talk a big phony game and walk around with too much air in your chest, in the hopes that this will make you pass as a real man. But I'm here to tell you there's no need to pound your chest like a primate. There's no need for self-destruction in the name of pride. To be vulnerable is to have courage. We're all compensating for what we lack. The sooner you realize this, the sooner you can really become a man. And one of the things that society tries to teach us as men is that you can never show any signs of weakness. Instead of addressing your insecurities, you must suppress them with masculinity. My biggest insecurity that I've struggled with for the majority of my life has been financial insecurity. You see, growing up, my family never had much. For as long as I can remember, we lived paycheck to paycheck, and money, or the lack of it, was always the topic of discussion. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that my life was a struggle, because it wasn't. I lived good. I had the best childhood I could ever ask for. My parents worked day and night to provide for our family, and for that I'm thankful. Yes, we lived in Section 8 housing, but when you're a kid in the neighborhood, you have no concept of poverty. You don't leave the neighborhood, so it's all you know. There is no comparison, and that lack of comparison is the beauty of childhood. But this all changed when I moved from New Britain to Cromwell, Connecticut at the age of 8. Pretty much we moved from the hood of one fucked up town, which was New Britain, to the air quotes hood of a really nice town. And I put the air quotes there because it was not the hood at all. But when you put it into perspective with the rest of the town, that was Cromwell's little hood. It was the one section of town with the apartment buildings behind the commercial plazas. That was where I lived. But this was my pocket, so I didn't really know even when I moved there. But as I started growing older, I started branching out of my neighborhood. And that's when I started to notice that I was different. And I'll never forget the day it hit me. I went over to my friend Jared the Rice's house for the first time. And he lived in this big ass house in this beautiful ass neighborhood. And it was the first time I realized what life was like, outside of an apartment. And there it hit me. We had less. And from that day on, I began to pay attention to every little detail. I swear I became hypersensitive to anything that would point me out as being poor. Like the car my parents drove, the house we lived in, even the clothes on my back. And over time, these things built up inside of me to form an irrational sense of insecurity. I was so scared of people finding out where I live. I feel like my biggest fear growing up, at that age, like that adolescent age, preteen age, was people finding out where I live. I was embarrassed to get on and off the bus at my house. I would never take a ride home from football practice from anybody who didn't already know where I lived. And if someone were to have to come pick me up, I'd walk down to the corner like it hid where I live or something like that. Years went by as I let this insecurity fester inside of me like an untreated wound. And of course I didn't show it, because you don't talk about these things at that age. The last thing you want to do is talk about these things that you're insecure of. But they're like burned inside your brain. I swear I remember every situation where my heart started pumping because somebody was about to expose me or something like that. Like I would always get free lunch like in middle school and like high school. And I remember specifically there was this one lunch lady. And she didn't have to work. Like she had a wealthy husband. She worked for fun. And I swear she took joy of like pointing out that I was on free lunch. And maybe that was just me with that irrational sense of insecurity, but I swear, maybe I was paranoid, but I wasn't. I specifically remember this one day I was in line with my boy Nate at lunch. And I'm sure he doesn't remember this, but I remember it because I was getting exposed, the secret that I was trying to hide so bad that, my family didn't have a lot of money. That was the biggest secret that I tried to hide. So one day we're in line, and it's one of the first days of school or something like that, and we go through the cold lunch line, I believe, and I got like a sandwich and a soup, and I get to the checkout line, and you didn't have a card or something like that. You just put your code in and you got your free lunch. But when I finally got to her, she's like, oh, with your lunch plan, you get an apple and this and that. And it sounds like she's looking out, but trust me, she wasn't. Like, I got the vibe from her because she would repeatedly do it. You don't have to tell me that shit every time I come through your line, you know what I mean? But to me, it was just terrible because I'm sitting here with my boy Nate, dude, like, he knows I don't have a lot of money, but there's just something about hiding it to where, like, you don't want to be exposed. So when she said that to me, I was like, oh shit, like, she's exposing that I got free lunch. But it didn't matter. Like, Nate already knew I didn't have a lot of money. This is one of my good friends, but this is just what you do when you carry that insecurity with you. And then there's my dumbass after Nate checks out right after me, like, oh, why didn't she ask you if you need an apple? Like, that was weird, dude. Like, why didn't she ask you why you need an apple, dude? Like, trying to cover it up. Like, I mean, I don't know, Nate. You tell me, bro, if you remember that day. Let me know. But yeah, dude. And the reason why I'm sharing this story with you guys is because I'm sure you know it. I don't even have to tell you. When you're insecure about something, you're really trying to hide something, you remember those situations. They're burned in your brain. And I could do this entire podcast of situations like that. It's so crazy the lengths that you will go to try to hide your insecurity. I swear, so my brother was a senior when I was a freshman. And I swear we were late to school every fucking day. Every fucking day. And it was never spoken between us. It was never like spoken about. But you know why I think the reason why we were late every day? We both participated in it. It was because at the time my dad had a really fucked up car. He had this old ass Honda Accord or some shit. Old as fuck. Where like the headlights used to like flip up. And I swear to God, he loved this car, yo. Like, this was his Ferrari. But like, I feel like me and my brother were both embarrassed to be dropped off at school when everybody else is being dropped off. So, we'd pull up every fucking day, like 15 minutes late. Every day my freshman year, I was late. That was the length. I mean, my brother didn't care, like he was probably just late anyways. Maybe I'm speaking only for myself here, because my brother didn't go to class. Like, he was late all the time. He would leave school early. But for me, like, that was my freshman year. Like, I'm trying to do good, you know what I mean? But I enjoyed being late because that meant I didn't have to get dropped off when everybody was there. So there I was, letting this insecurity fester inside of me, going to great lengths to hide it. Then during my sophomore year of high school, the irony of life just knocked me off my feet. My brother Pasha and I were sitting on the couch when there was a knock at the door. And of course, being a little brother, I jump up. I'm like, I'm going to go get that, see who it is. And I open it up. And there's this guy standing there in khakis, a black shirt, and I swear he had a badge or something like that. And he's holding this manila folder on his side. And I knew right that second this was bad. This was bad news. Like, what the fuck is about to happen? But I didn't think it would be as bad as it was, I had no clue what the fuck was about to happen, what was about to come in that vanilla folder. So this guy asked me if my parents are home. I tell him no, it was just me and Pasha there at the time. And then he looks me in my eye and says he's sorry as he passes me that little folder by his side. And I grabbed this folder thinking to myself, sorry? What the fuck are you sorry for? Then I shut the door and gave the envelope to my brother. And I watched him tear it open and begin to read carefully. And I swear a few sentences in, it took like 5 seconds maybe. And that curious look on his face changed to one of distraught. And he just threw the letter down on the table. And I remember seeing his head shake side to side. And even though I already knew this was bad, when I saw Pasha like that, like, this shit is crazy, you know what I mean? Because Pasha doesn't stress out like that, you know what I mean? He doesn't get disappointed like that, or at least he doesn't show it. And to see him shaking his head without words was insane. So I'm sitting there like, yo, bro, what's it say? What's going on? What's going on? And he can't tell me. Either he was trying to protect me, or he just literally could not get the words out of the pit that was now his stomach. So I can't take this silence anymore. I pick up the letter and put it up to my face. And one word just jumps off the page. Eviction. And that was that. We had 30 days to move out. I remember that night was so long. It was one of the longest nights of my life. I laid awake staring at the ceiling, tossing and turning, just tormented by anger, fear, hopelessness, and humiliation. I felt dehumanized. And there's only so much I can explain to you guys with words. But just imagine what your home means to you. Just think about it right now. Your house. Are you sitting in your house right now? Look around the room. Look at all your items that you cherish so much. Think of all the memories that you have there. And imagine getting a letter saying, yo, you gotta get the fuck out of there. Just imagine that. It's a crazy feeling and it's dehumanizing. You feel like it's a human right to have a fucking home. Nobody can come in here. No bank can come in here and just take your home away. But that's how it works. And it should work that way. I'm not saying it's wrong. I mean, if you don't pay your bills, that's what happens. And as I came to grips with the realization that my home was being taken away from me, the worst part about it was the fact that I didn't even appreciate my home in the first place. I was ashamed of my home. I was embarrassed of my home. And here I was being kicked out of it. That's the irony of life right there, man. And I'm happy it taught me this lesson, because if you don't appreciate what you have, life's going to go ahead and take that shit from you. And one of the things you probably don't know about being evicted, if it's never happened to you, is that it fucks your credit up badly, and you can't just go and buy another place. You can't start new. Now you got to go find somewhere to rent. And that's what we did. We just moved right down the hall. And I mean, literally, it was the weirdest thing. We just moved right down the hall, like same floor and everything, just to a smaller 2-bedroom apartment. Even though I still had a home, I was mad at the world. And the first night we were there, I slept on the bathroom floor like a little bitch screaming for attention. Like I was the only one in my family struggling in this situation. I hated that new apartment so much. So fucking much. I did not learn my lesson about appreciating my home. I hated that place. I hated that every single night my parents had to move the coffee table to the side, go get the sponge mattress from my room, mine and my brother's room, and put it on the floor and sleep on the floor. Like, that was the worst thing ever. I hated seeing that. But they made that sacrifice for us, But the apartment was just so small, and I just hated it because it never felt like home. I never brought anybody over the house. I had to explain to all my friends, why we're living down the hall now. I just hated that place. I could never bring anybody new over. I was so embarrassed of it still. And it always just felt like we were on top of each other. I was getting older in that apartment. I think I graduated high school in that apartment. Actually, yeah, I did. So I was there for a few years. And as those years go by, like with anything else in life, you get used to it. And this becomes your new home. Time passes by and you forget what things were like before. But one thing I didn't get used to, though, was my insecurity. After the eviction, I felt worthless. Rather than addressing that insecurity, I used the only defense mechanism I knew of. And that was masculinity. Real men don't feel pain, right? I became a tough guy who showed no emotion because I thought that this would somehow hide the fact that I was poor and struggling. So I did what I thought was manly. I started bullying people. I stopped putting effort into school. I started drinking and smoking weed at such a young age. I was 14 years old when I smoked my first blunt. 14. And that's nuts, man. Like, that's crazy. That's so young. And all of this could have been avoided by just addressing my insecurity. I wasted years of my life carrying around this pointless stress and anxiety, self-destructing and becoming somebody that I just was not, instead of just paying attention to this insecurity and healing myself. When I see somebody trying too hard to be a man, I see my old foolish self trying to disguise my insecurity. It takes courage to open yourself up and be vulnerable. But when you avoid confrontation with your insecurities, it's like giving an old rusty bridge a paint job. Yeah, you look good on the outside, good enough to fool everybody else. But the immense pressure that you're putting on yourself on a daily basis is just creating all these stress fractures. And you keep trying to keep painting, don't let anybody know I'm fucked up under here. Then one day you fail, and you're left trying to pick up the pieces. And I'm so thankful that I found this courage necessary to peel back those layers of paint and say to hell with them and actually tend to the cracks. Today I couldn't be more confident in my financial situation. And that's not because I have money now. I'm still broke. But it's because I've addressed my insecurity. I realized that the amount of money in my bank account has no correlation to my self-worth. There are far more valuable things in life. A dollar bill does not mean shit to me. As long as I live a life of purpose, I can have all the money in the world. If I don't have drive, if I'm not working for something that has meaning, what is my life worth? There's nothing more honorable than having a dream and taking your best crack at it. That is my purpose. This right here is my purpose. Yes, I paid a very high price to learn this lesson. But I'm thankful that I learned it so early in life. Because this lesson has saved me from a life of compensating. I hate that I was so naive. But I can't blame myself. I didn't know any better. How could I have known any better? Insecurities are just a natural part of being human. But so is overcoming them. It's all on you. It's all your choice. You can either continue suppressing your insecurities with masculinity and self-destructing, or you can choose to have the courage to address them and live a life of progress. And when I say progress, I don't just mean yourself. I mean for everybody around you. You can't form healthy relationships if you yourself are broken. And not only that, but it takes vulnerability on both ends to form a real relationship. You must be brave and talk about the things that you don't want to talk about. Talk about the things that worry you. Talk about what you're afraid of. Talk about what you're angry about. No, it's not your stereotypical idea of a man to open up and talk about these things. But it's necessary. In my 2 years of dating my girlfriend Taylor, I can honestly say that we have never really gotten into a fight. And the huge reason for that is because she's the most honest, selfless, and understanding person I've ever met in my life. But another reason is because we are not afraid to talk to each other. If we're having an issue, we sit there and talk it out. It's not because I'm the man in the relationship and what I say goes. No, it's the opposite of that. It's because we're both willing to step away from our roles and just come together. There's no need for doing this bullshit. There's no need for me pounding my chest and saying what I say goes. Because that would never work. And it would never work if she did the same thing. The worst thing you can do is just bottle up your emotions. Especially with your partner. Because that shit is gonna come out. It's gonna come out. Even if it's so small, just give it a little bit of time. I guarantee you're gonna think about it all day. You're gonna look at her and you're just gonna keep thinking about it. And then it really just started off as a very small problem. It's not an issue. So small that you think you should ignore it. But by ignoring it, you're just letting it fester inside of you. And it grows and it grows. And you're sitting at the dinner table and you fucking explode like a dumbass. And she's sitting there looking at you like, where the fuck did that just come from? We're sitting here eating at the table and you just drop a nuke and explode like that? Over what? Over something that small? But that's exactly what happens when you bottle it up. When you don't talk, when you don't express yourself, that's what happens. So if you want to be a tough guy and bottle up all your emotions and never put them out, never speak about them, go ahead, man. Go ahead. Go ahead, be my guest. But you're never going to have a healthy relationship in your life. And yeah, maybe it doesn't matter, maybe it doesn't matter. But I'm not only talking about your relationship with your partner. This principle doesn't only apply to romantic relationships. This applies to every single person in your life, your family, your friends, your coworkers, every single person who you're close with. If you don't extend your arm out, if you don't show your vulnerability, then you're never going to get close with any of them. And I'm serious, I was afraid what my parents would think listening to this. But after I put it out and they listened to the first episode, yeah, of course they had their concerns, the traditional Montenegrin parents. Of course they're going to have their concerns. But I could hear it in their voice, they were happy, And it felt so fucking good, and I feel closer to them just by them listening to my podcast. Because I was worried about what they would think. But I chose to be vulnerable. I chose to have courage. And now I feel closer to my own parents, you know what I mean? And it's fucking beautiful. It's beautiful, and I would hate for you to miss out on that just because you're trying so hard to be a man. And another thing I want to bring up to you guys is the fact that there are manly things to do and there are not manly things to do. And one way to spot a man trying too hard to be a man is that he avoids doing all things not manly. And my sister Jenna taught me this. And I hate to say it because when she hears it, she's going to be gassed. Yes, bro, you taught me something and you've taught me many things. This is just one of them. But it all started, we were sitting at my uncle's bar having a couple drinks. And I go to order us another round, right? And I order us some Cosmos. Great drink, delicious drink, but a pink drink. And a drink that comes in a martini glass and it's pink. So what's that mean? It's not manly. So what did? I ordered ours. I'm like, hey, put mine in a pint glass. As if the clear pint glass is going to hide the fact that I'm drinking a bright pink drink. And she turns to me and she looks at me with this face like, she's got this face that she'll make when you're being a dumbass and shit, and like she's just trying to be condescending. And she'll make that face to you. And she makes that face to me. She goes, chill, bro. Just have some confidence. And no matter how big of a bum you are, Jenna, you were right. I swear to God, you were right. And that moment right there made me realize how crazy it is how we take such arbitrary things into account when considering our manhood. Like, I was brainwashed. I was truly brainwashed. We all get brainwashed by society, I swear. Like, the shape of a glass and the color of a drink is going to determine my manhood. And this is just one example. You know, not all things are as innocent as just choosing a different glass, you know, choosing a pint glass over a martini glass. There are some of you listening to me right now completely avoiding your passion in life, choosing a completely different path, one that goes against the grain of who you are, just because it stands out like that martini glass. I mean, listen, to the simple mind, poetry is like that martini glass. The art of pouring your emotions onto a page is one that goes against the stereotypical idea of being a man. And believe me, there are times when I write where I feel the urge to call out for that pint glass, in an effort to appease the fraction of myself still bought into the idea that poetry is not a manly endeavor. And that's when I hear my sister's voice. Have confidence. And the next time you find yourself in that situation, I want you to hear my voice. Because it's an absolute tragedy how much raw talent must go to waste because of the idea that there are manly things and not manly things. And by no means am I saying I'm a talented poet or I'm a talented orator. I know I'm not. I know I'm trash. I'm not afraid to say it. But I do believe that one day with hard work and dedication I can be. And it makes me wonder, what if I didn't have the confidence to write? You know, how much talent and potential would I be wasting? And listen, if the example that I'm giving to you, you know, about myself, about writing, isn't sufficient, I was thinking about one person who I know did something that was not manly, but changed the fucking world. And that person was Walt Disney. I mean, I think it's fair to say that creating mystical cartoons meant for children is not manly. It compares to that same martini glass that I was talking about. It goes against the status quo. Now think about exactly what impact Walt Disney has had on the world. It's impossible to fully understand. There's literally no way to wrap your mind around it. His creations have brought happiness into the lives of billions of people. He has changed billions of lives. And not only that, but he's taught generations of children that the world is not what it has to be. With your imagination, you can escape even the most unpleasant situations. And most importantly, his legacy will live forever. He will continue to live forever. Future generations will reap the benefits of his courageous action to go against the status quo. Just think about what a tragedy it would have been if Walt Disney had drank the Kool-Aid. Inside each and every one of us lies untapped potential. Inside of me, inside of you. Don't let the social constructions of insecure people dictate what avenue you will pursue in this life. I would hate for the world to miss out on what you have to offer because you lack confidence in yourself. Maybe you will make waves like Disney. Or maybe you won't. Either way, there is honor in trying. At least you will know in your heart that you tried, that you weren't scared, that you weren't afraid of the world, what they would think of you. That you chased your dreams. At least you would know that. And before I get into the last section that I want to talk with you guys about today, I want you to think about every single moment where you feel like you've taken a step back in your life, where you went backwards, where you got in trouble, where you just made a mistake. And think whether or not you let your ego and your pride dictate that movement that you made. Because when I ask myself that question, it highlights everything for me. I don't even need to give it much thought because it's so obvious. All the mistakes that I've made, all the trouble that I've gotten into, what drove me to do those stupid things, to act those certain ways, was my pride and my ego. And that's exactly it. And what I don't get is we are taught to preserve this pride and that ego. Yes, of course, you should have self-respect. But the world doesn't owe you anything. The person standing across from you does not owe you a certain degree of respect. And you need to understand that. You need to have the self-worth to know that. Because not everybody is going to be nice and cute and be just good to you. Not everybody's going to be that way. Because there's a lot of fucked up people out there who are insecure with themselves, who don't know how to treat another person. But inside they feel like they're somebody. They feel like they're the king of the world. They're fucking King Kong. So they're going to challenge you. And when that happens, instead of trying to win this battle, even though you know you can easily win this battle, you got to remember that war with yourself that you're having. Think about the long run. Why are you going to set yourself back right now in this moment? For what? You're just going to fill yourself with regret. Just because you don't want your pride to be hurt. Because your ego's too big. Don't let that happen. And I'm telling you this shit firsthand. This has been a problem in my life. It really has. But now I feel like the more and more that I understand my self-worth, and the more and more that I see the bigger picture, I see where I want to be in the future, why would I take these steps back? I'm tired of fumbling over myself. I'm tired of it. So at this point, I'm ready to take the L's. I'm ready to take the L's because those L's are really wins. In the long run, those L's are really wins. And for my boys in the Balkan community, you guys got to hear this shit because I feel like in our community, it's especially rampant. We feel like our egos can never be challenged because I guess we're just old school like that. And we like to fight. But that shit is stupid. It's so stupid. It's so crazy to me that we all go overseas in the summertime to Montenegro to go see our family, see the motherland. And what do we end up doing? We end up fighting each other in the streets. How fucking stupid is that? Tell me how stupid is that? It's because all of our egos are blown out of proportion and we think we're mad fucking cool when you're not. You are nobody. I am nobody. And I just wanted to bring that point up about my community specifically, but it applies to everybody else. You are nobody. The world doesn't owe you anything. Stop tripping over yourself. Stop setting yourself back. Take the L, man. Take the L. I'm telling you, when you walk away and take the L, it feels good. It feels good to know that you didn't bring yourself to the level of a scumbag. You are better than that. Have that self-worth. And it's not all about physical confrontations. That's just one piece of this conversation about ego and pride. Another piece of it is just willing to admit that you're wrong. That you made a mistake. Instead of being stubborn, instead of trying to save face, admit that you're wrong and then you can move on. I feel like your pride and your ego makes you burn so many bridges in your life for no reason at all. You don't want to apologize. You don't want to admit that you were wrong. So now you can never go across that bridge and you just lost a good person in your life because you want to save face. And I heard this one saying, when you're in a hole, stop digging. And I feel like when you prioritize your ego and your pride, you can never stop digging. You put yourself in that hole and you just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And then one day you look up and there's no possible way of getting out. And this right here is a dangerous way to live your life. Because one day you're going to look around and there's going to be nobody around you because you burnt every fucking bridge. And I know people like that in my life. And it's scary and I don't want to be that way. And I would hate for you to be that way. And I really hope that by now you guys are getting a sense of the overarching theme here. Being your stereotypical man is not the move. You might feel like it's working for you, but there's much more value in just being yourself. Address your insecurities and stop compensating for the things that you lack. Open up to the people in your life and create real bonds. Pursue what you want in life even if it goes against the typical idea of what it means to be manly. And lastly, don't allow your ego and pride to dictate your life. Take control of your own life. In the end, the only meaningful fight is the one you have with yourself. The person you are today versus the person you wish to be tomorrow. You can accomplish so much in this life if you just get out of your own way. Stop fumbling over your own mistakes. Stop acting out of ego and pride. There's no honor in that. You only make a fool of yourself. Just start being yourself and not what the world wants you to be. You owe it to yourself. And I honestly mean that. You owe it to yourself to be yourself. I'm telling you, it feels amazing. I just aired out to everybody right now what was one of my biggest insecurities throughout the majority of my life. And it feels amazing, you know? It feels like there's a weight off my shoulders. And I feel untouchable because there's nothing that you can say to me. Like, I'm just me. I'm myself. There's nothing you can say to me that I don't already know that I'm not willing to share, you know? So it's like I kind of got this cloak, this shield on me that you really can't touch me. I'm untouchable because I'm just me. And not only that, but I'm getting closer to the people around me. And I feel like I'm finally able to have some grip on the ground to start moving forward because I'm not going to keep setting myself back, acting out of pride and ego. So I'm telling you, it feels amazing and you owe it to yourself to just be yourself. And that's all I got for you guys today. Just be yourself. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, as always, please show some support. It means the world to me. Whatever you can do, whether it's leaving a review, sharing it on social media, subscribing to the podcast, whatever you can do, just telling a friend, it all helps me out so much. And I just want to say thank you guys again from the bottom of my heart. I love you all. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys stay strong out there, and I'll see you later.